Our lesson objective is about rules, laws, and the Constitution. Scholars will be able to determine the reasons for rules, laws, and the U.S. Constitution as it relates to the role of citizenship and the promotion for laws, rules, and the consequences if laws are broken through charts, summaries, and graphs, 4 out of 5 events. Now, our main objective is to teach them using many different ways to accommodate and to modify, to tailor to their needs. Now, we use a lot of different ways in our lesson objective, in our lesson plan, I'm sorry. One of which being UDL in ESL. We had majority of our accommodations tailored to ESL because there was much of the curriculum, the material that was tailored to more English focused writing. So we did have to do a lot of modifications for our student, one of which being our assignment. So they had to pick one court case amendment and find the pivotal effect of the Constitution on this court case, or what the court case had on the Constitution, using bar, chart, and graph, using a poster board. Now, as a different design for ESL learner, we used Notebook LM. We did this because translation, it gives you the ability to translate from English to Spanish very easily. Visuals, I know for myself being bilingual, it was a huge help seeing visually what a word meant. Because sometimes there was a difficulty with not connecting the English word to the Spanish word. Also, it's flexible on language barriers. So if I'm talking to my ESL student and hypothetically I didn't know any Spanish, they could I could look at their visual and I can understand without any language barrier, what they meant and what they're trying to communicate in their assignment. We also had a middle class student where supplies could be an issue. We did tackle that by providing everything, every material, poster boards. So we're providing the markers, the erasers, the pencils, the poster boards itself. We are providing all that, as well as the district for the computers, for the resources to research, or the textbooks. As far as the social justice aspect of it, we see later on in our presentation what that looks like and how we implement that. Anti-racism. So in our assessment video, where at the end there's a group assignment, we talk about Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln, slavery, the Civil Rights Act, segregation, all these topics that could be a little bit more sensitive or maybe not talked about, but they are third graders and this needs to be more discussed in schools. The history of our faults, seeing our mistakes and the effects that our mistakes had, and how sometimes instead of just fixing it, admitting that we're wrong and seeing the effect it had on millions of people's lives, how history took a turn and how so many people were impacted negatively from these listed topics. I mean, we have a president, Abraham Lincoln, that is known for abolishing slavery. and the Emancipation Proclamation, but there's so much that we need to expose students to that gives them that right and wrong perspective, and treating people fairly is a must in every way. Now, intersectionality. We also talk about this. One of our main points is fairness due to the Constitution. So your religion, color of skin, culture, and the courage to speak up. In our video, it talks about how there was a right and a wrong, but there were people that made history by speaking up. In the Constitution, it talks about the checks and balances, how there needs to be awareness, there needs to be fairness, and there needs to be a way to have everyone in the community coincide with one another and have that respect, and that although sometimes we may not all agree and have the same perspective, respect and the ability to retain that calmness, I think it is essential. And I think the Constitution makes that clear. Formative. Formative assessment is where they get in a group. Our formative assessment, they get in a group and they are given one of these cards that says one of the listed sentences above. So you must wear a seatbelt in the car. You cannot steal things that do not belong to other people, You must stop at a stop sign, and so on. They'll be giving a card at a group. They will discuss whether this is a rule or a law. Then they will discuss why that rule was made and the consequences for this rule. For example, one of them is you must stop at a stop sign. Well, let's think about that. Is that more applied to school rules or the public rules? The public. So that would be a law. Now, the consequence to not stopping at a stop sign it would be getting a ticket. You would get a fine or go to jail depending on how the situation was and how possibly maybe it escalated, whatever it may be. But this is an open discussion. This is a good way for them to not only talk about what could be and what is, but maybe something they've seen and they could come to their peers about it. Summative. There will only be one writer, one reader, one illustrator, and one representative. And they'll take a minute to decide what role goes to who, and they will choose one event to make a chart, graph, or summary. We have a video using Notebook LM that gives them the options of the events they can use. For example, one of them I chose for my example is the 13th Amendment effects. So there were 2,000 reported African American lynchings before the 13th Amendment, and then to 4,000 after it was passed. The effects were, it doubled. The lynchings doubled, sadly. And we could see that effect using the internet or the textbook. We could, there is a graph seen here, the pink and the black, showing how it doubled. I think a lot of what we did today reflected what we wanted to do for the kids, how we wanted to teach them. There's a lot of different accommodations that are done in the classroom, and we need to be flexible. There are different talks with the teacher. We had a three teacher lesson plan, and seeing how we each took a role and how we applied that to our lesson plan and our lesson objective and our different strategies. It was all very solid and very mindful. We thought a lot about each assessment, each paragraph, and how it could affect the student and how we could fix or how we could modify to make it easier for them and more understandable.